You see these cars?
Yeah, they're awesome.
They suck. They're nothing compared to this.
Whoa.
The engine in this car is made by McKernan Motors, the industry standard in Formula One. In fact, they've won more championships than any other engine on the planet.
How do you know all this?
Avery McKernan was the first client I ever brought into the firm.
So one of the perks in working at a major law firm is that sometimes you get to do client visits at like the client headquarters or offices. Now, I was at a firm in Silicon Valley, so my clients were a bit different than McKernan Motors, which, you know, is where Harvey and Mike are in this scene. I went to a lot of tech companies on my client visits, like Dropbox, like Square, at the time Twitter, also at the time Tesla. That name hasn't changed. And it's just such a different environment, you know, to go and visit, and because you don't have to necessarily be working and grinding when you're at the client headquarters, it's a fun time, you know, to bond with the clients, to see that, you know, in the world of tech, you got like beanbag chairs and arcade game rooms and all that fun stuff. Whereas at a law firm setting, even the more California West Coast chill firms like the one that I was at, it's still pretty buttoned up. It's still pretty old school.
Was?
He died 3 months ago.
Oh God, I'm so sorry.
Not the point. McKernan's engines and his company have something in common. They win, like me. And because I win, I've been promoted to senior partner, which means you'll be handling all their paperwork.
Oh, so you brought me here to give me an appreciation for the product?
No, I brought you here to meet Robert Stensland, the new CEO. He'll want to put a face with your name.
How do you know?
Because Robert's a tightwad and we don't bill you out for nothing.
Wait a minute, is this conversation right now billable?
I bet your ass it is.
Yes. Up top, come on. What? We're making all this money. We can't celebrate it?
Not in poor taste.
Yeah, just like Harvey was saying, anytime you're talking to somebody about a client matter, anytime you're thinking about a client matter, even if you're doing it like in the bathroom, anytime over lunch when you're walking down the hall talking to somebody, even sometimes clients will allow you when you're traveling to the client site for a meeting, any of that time counts as billable time that goes onto the client's account. And in this case, you know, Harvey's rate's probably like $1,500 or $1,600, and Mike's is probably like $700 or $800 an hour. So yeah, lawyers can be expensive, man. And clients, certainly at big law firms, they got deep pockets because otherwise they can't afford the crazy rates of these big law firms.
I have found a buyer willing to spend $200 million for the ground underneath the flagship factory.
Where are you moving manufacturing?
Well, that's the beauty of it. The real asset of McKernan Motors is the name. We move overseas, we save ourselves a bundle.
Upfront payout while retaining the name and maintaining cash flow over time. That's genius.
Exactly.
We'll take care of everything.
Okay.
Right.
Thanks.
Really?
Jesus, I knew he was cheap. I didn't realize he was an idiot.
What are you talking about?
The asset's not the name, it's the quality. He moves overseas, he's gonna kill the goose that laid the goddamn golden engine.
Wait a minute, I thought you didn't get emotionally attached to the client.
I'm emotionally attached to me. Look, I made a bet that this company would grow and my billables would grow with it. We're holding a pair of aces and this asshole's trying to fold.
So, what are you gonna do?
I'm not gonna do anything. You're gonna go through those bylaws and you're gonna find me a way to get rid of Robert Stensland.
No, I have to go see my grandmother.
Is she dying?
No.
Cancel on her.
Okay, first of all, that was savage, and I hate to say that it is accurate as to the expectations of the big law world when it comes to prioritizing work above casual hangouts, like hanging out with your grandma or hanging out with your friends or family, or even going on like a date on like a weeknight. That stuff comes second to the deals, to servicing the clients, and that type of intensity, it just is what it is. It's kind of a self-selecting culture in big law. The people that are okay with that, they stay. The people who are not okay with it and want more of a balanced life, they usually leave. Now, there's a couple other things in this scene that I wanted to touch on. One is that I loved the way that Harvey was such a two-face with Robert there, telling him, you're such a genius, that's such a great idea, turning around and telling Mike, yeah, that guy's a total idiot. And I like this because, you know, in the legal world, as a relationship partner in big law, but really in any law firm setting, you know, you want to be liked by your clients. This is kind of standard service ideology 101. You want to be liked by the person that is the customer. Now, when Harvey here talks about getting rid of Robert as the CEO and replacing him with one of his own, that really took me aback because, first of all, your role as a lawyer, your role is not to interfere with the operations and the leadership of your clients. Your role usually is to do what you're told. Client comes to you, Harvey, sell, you know, this land, right? In this case, do this deal for me, Harvey. Harvey, replace this person on the board of directors. Harvey, fire this worker of mine. And then you do it. You as the attorney will go and you'll perform it. But for him to go out of his way, for Harvey to say, I don't like the guy, the direction he's taking the company, I, on my own, without the client asking at all. Nobody in the company has asked this of him. I'm going to go digging now and spend time and resources and the client's money. He's going to bill for all this. I'm going to go and try to find a way to get him out and replace him. You may be running into ethical violations by doing that. You may be running into conflict of interest issues that arise from doing that. And in the worst case, you could have your bar license jeopardized. You could lose the client, obviously, because the client, if this guy remains CEO, the first thing he's going to do is fire Harvey because Harvey just acted against him, which shouldn't be the case as his company's attorney. And so that just definitely surprised me. We'll see what happens next. And one last thing, the dehumanizing moment where Robert put the champagne glass in Mike's hand when Mike stuck his hand out to shake Robert's hand. Again, I hate to say it, but there are moments when, as a junior associate on the totem pole in the space, whether it's by clients or by the senior partners, you can kind of get treated like dirt, you know? And I had my share of those moments in different contexts. Thankfully, it was never as demeaning as that in person. Mine mainly tended to be over email. Everybody has their own version of the story, I can assure you, in the industry. But you know what? You got to take it for what it is. That guy was not being cool, and Mike's ego, I don't think, is that fragile to be affected by it anyway, so.
He's not here. No.
Where is he?
He's at his senior partner initiation.
Let me ask you something. What's the difference between a senior partner and other partners?
Isn't that something you should have been studying when you were pretending to go to Harvard? Okay. Senior partners, they buy into the firm. They share in the profits, but they also have to put up equity.
So how much does it cost to buy in?
$500,000 right now?
Harvey, you knew what the buy-in was. You knew today was initiation. How could you not have the money?
I didn't think it was due today. It's not due today, is it?
No.
It's not.
Every man in this room fell for exactly the same thing.
Does that include you?
No, it doesn't. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, the first thing I want to talk about is executive assistants like Donna are the lifeblood of supporting the attorney's work in law firm settings. They will help do things like schedule and maintain the calendars of the attorneys. They'll handle all of the menial tasks that can really suck up a lot of your time as a lawyer, but that still need to get done that are important. You know, saving documents into the internal file system, sending out mass emails, handling formatting issues. And one thing you might find interesting is, you know, look, these folks tend not to be paid as well as lawyers, right? They're not doing the premium legal work, billing out at crazy rates, but their work is still really important. So in some firms, the rule of thumb is that every year around Christmas, you as the attorney should give a bonus to your executive assistant. And the amount of that bonus typically tracks with the amount of time you've been at the firm. And it's done in $100 increments, $100 bonus for every year you have been at the firm. So if you're a first year associate, the ideal gift bonus is $100 to your executive assistant. If you've been there for 10 years, then it's a $1,000 bonus to your executive assistant. And they're worth their weight in gold, man, these executive assistants. So Donna obviously is special. Now, the discussion about being in the show, they call it a senior partner versus partner. The difference being when you're a senior partner, you actually buy into the firm and purchase equity in the firm versus regular partner, you don't. These days, the terminology is a little different. At most firms, if you're at the level where you're buying into the firm, it's called being an equity partner because you own equity in the firm. It kind of follows with the name. And then if you don't have equity, if you don't buy in, then you're a non-equity partner. And the main difference is, first of all, the goal for most people who are in the law firm setting and climbing the ladder, the goal is to become an equity partner because the equity partners make the most money, and they make the most money because equity partners are the ones that typically take a cut of the profit of the firm every single year as part of their compensation model. Whereas non-equity partners, or in some cases junior partners, right, again, every firm is different, they will get paid just kind of a salary. So no matter really how much the firm is making, oftentimes they're just going to get paid the same number of dollars. And most of these firms, the big law firms, they're doing very well and they're growing every single year revenue wise. And so, you know, you'd obviously want to be an equity partner if your goal is to make as much money as possible, which many of these people, that is the goal. God bless. Godspeed. Now, one last thing, and that is the actual amount of the equity buy-in. You know, Harvey right there, they asked him to pay $500,000 to buy into the firm and to get his stake of equity. That's a hefty amount of money. Typically, you buy in and obviously you're going to get paid a lot every single year because you're an equity partner. But also, you do get a buyout if you decide to leave the firm. So typically, if you decide you retire or you go to a different law firm or you move in-house, you do something else, the firm will pay that money back to you. And so you're not like losing it, but it's still quite a lot of money. And I think like in this case, at a big, high prestige firm, you know, $500,000 is probably pretty reasonable. I know it's definitely in the hundreds of thousands at most law firms, and certainly at the, you know, the higher level firms and the more white shoe, more prestigious firms, it's going to be more money than less. So I think that's pretty accurate too.
The board can't vote for at least 24 hours after the CEO presents a deal involving the sale of company land.
But Stensland already presented it to the board.
Right, but Stensland isn't CEO.
I wrote those bylaws myself. He's CEO.
Page 238, clause 137 states, if the CEO dies, an interim CEO will be appointed until the board convenes an election vote, which can't be called till the next fiscal quarter, in this case, next Thursday.
So they can't vote him in until Thursday?
Thursday.
Okay. Well, prepare the due diligence for me to take to Stensland, but I don't want anything ready to sign.
Where are you going?
Out. I have until Thursday to find a new CEO.
So if you're following this discussion, it's pretty straightforward. Mike is basically saying, look, the bylaws weren't exactly followed to appoint the CEO who's currently acting as CEO, and therefore, he doesn't really have the authority to do what he needs to do to close this deal. That, in turn, gives Harvey more time to undertake his plot of replacing the CEO with someone else of his choosing. This is exactly why you need lawyers to review the things you're doing on the transactional side of the legal world, in corporate law, helping you build your company, helping you hire people, fire people. And I say that because it is incredibly rules-based, the law itself. You need to follow every specific guideline perfectly. If you don't, then maybe you didn't actually get the equity in the company that you thought you had. Or maybe you're not actually the CEO formally because you didn't follow the rule. Or maybe that employee that you thought you hired and that you thought had signed confidentiality, maybe they actually didn't. I can't tell you the number of times that clients come to me in the corporate side of my practice with specific issues that turn on these technical requirements. Did they give 10-day notice for this letter to go out before making a decision? Did they have enough shares in their corporate stock treasury before giving them to a co-founder, or did they not, and now that other founder doesn't have anything? Some clients come to me and it helps them, the fact that they didn't follow these rules, but most of the time it doesn't. And so this is the reason that there's a high premium pay for the legal practice on the transactional side, because you do need rules to govern these corporations and these structures and these institutions, and they do need to be followed. And if you don't follow them, then you risk having a shareholder create a lawsuit claiming that the company and the board of directors violated their fiduciary obligations, or your company could just implode. You know, one of your co-founders can actually hold all the stock and then kick you out of your company, or an employee walks away and steals your IP. So in any event, if you're a startup, if you're a content creator, if you're someone out there who's building a business, you haven't had legal eyes on your stuff, I very much encourage you to get an attorney who's qualified to look over your stuff, make sure you're all good. By the way, I am taking new clients.
You see that guy over there by the fax? Take a good look. He's never gonna make partner.
Okay, let me guess, because he threw a lousy rookie dinner.
No, because he doesn't get it.
Get what?
He doesn't get that doing good work isn't the whole job. Part of getting it is that things like the dinner actually matter, even when you don't think they do. Look, you were giving me shit this morning because I come and go when I want to. You know why I can do that?
So in this scene, Mike is being tasked with planning this associate dinner, and he's like, why does this even matter, right? This isn't billable, this isn't client work. And Harvey's point here is actually a very accurate one when he says it's, you know, making partner is not just about doing the legal work and like being a spoke in the wheel. It's also about contributing to the law firm greater culture and the law firm community. In most law firm settings, it really helps when you're making a case to become a partner if you've contributed to the law firm's community itself, like mentoring associates, like building a new practice area, working on internal educational resources for other lawyers, just contributing things that are not just the usual client billables, but that are still meaningful to grow the brand of the law firm, to make the law firm a better place to work. In this case, Mike planning the associate dinner, that matters. It matters. If he does it well and he's also a great lawyer, then it's that much easier when he eventually goes up for partner for the partnership to say, yeah, he's been a contributor to our community. He's not just a good attorney who does his job and clocks out, but he cares. It does matter.
What's going on with Robert Stensland?
What did Lewis tell you?
You're not dealing with Lewis, you're dealing with me. What are you hiding?
Nothing. I looked through the bylaws and precluded potential litigation.
You looked at the bylaws for a tactical reason, and I want to know what it is.
I want him out.
That is not your call. You're an attorney. This is the internal business of McKernan Motors.
McKernan had a plan, and I didn't spend a decade shaping it to let this fool throw it away.
McKernan is dead.
So what? Doesn't mean the plan's no good.
You fail, we'll get fired.
He moves overseas, our billables will be gone in 5 years anyway.
Better 5 years than nothing.
You know what? That's Stenson's attitude, and it's a losing one.
Harvey, I don't think you have any business telling that man how to run his company. But I know you don't have any business telling me how to run mine. You are a senior partner. You are not a gunslinger anymore. Back off stenciling and close the deal.
Mama Jessica. Didn't I tell you that Harvey was overstepping by trying to remove a CEO of one of his clients with no permission, just on his own? Jessica just gave him that reminder. We'll see if he listens. But I do want to comment here that, you could be a senior partner making $5 million a year, but you are still in a hierarchy. That the legal world is a complete, simple, top-down hierarchy. And the named partner, who are usually the managing partners, not always, but the managing partner, the CEO, the named partner, whatever their title is at the top, in this case it's Jessica, she's above him. She is above Harvey. She can tell Harvey, no, you don't get to do that. Just like Harvey tells Mike, no, you don't do that. The same relationship applies here. Jessica's above Harvey, so Jessica gets to call the shots. And Harvey, you just gotta listen like a good little boy you are, or we'll see, maybe he won't because he's not really that type, but we'll see. He's supposed to.
You're taking a risk on him? Look at him. He's scared out of his mind. He's leaving his comfort zone because you convinced him to. So maybe some words of encouragement.
Best way to help Dominic is not to let him second guess himself. The most important asset an attorney has is his ability to always be self-assured.
I love that line that Harvey just said. The most important thing for the client is for the lawyer to be self-assured. Not just because confidence is really important in day-to-day life and development and building self-esteem and reaching your goals and even setting your goals. All that is true. But in the context of being an attorney and representing your clients, what they're seeking isn't just a lawyer to give them information and translate the law. They're also seeking someone that has the conviction and the confidence to say, we're going to do this thing. I have seen in my experience, this thing will play better than this thing. We're doing that. It's not just giving options, it's giving direction. It's advising the clients. That's super valuable. And I love, how he framed it in a way of self-assuredness.
Each of you have had 24 hours to review the documents in front of you. So at this time...
No, excuse me. What is he doing here?
I'm sorry, I'm going to take care of this.
No, I will. You gentlemen have no right to attend this meeting.
Actually, we do. The bylaws states that any original employee has the right to petition the board anytime they meet. Dominic Barone has assigned that right to me.
He was fired. He no longer has that right.
Per section 17-5.c, Dominic wasn't given 3 days notice, so technically he wasn't fired.
Which is why I do have the right to urge the board to accept the offer for the purchase of McKernan Motors. Now, I can tell you that this offer will keep manufacturing here and save jobs while retaining the flagship engine that put this company on the map, but I don't have to because it happens to be for way more goddamn money than the one in front of you right now. Hey, Bob, how are you?
Okay, now this is a clean play. Harvey may not be able to work on his own to get one CEO out and replace him with his own, but when Harvey goes and finds another purchaser to compete with the offer he doesn't like, and he finds a buyer, which he did in this episode, that's what that written offer was. Now the board of McKernan Motors actually has a fiduciary obligation to review and analyze that competing offer, and because, as Harvey said, because that new offer is for more dollars than the other offer, the board is going to have a really tough time getting legal cover if they decide to go with the lower offer. They don't have to, okay, to be clear. There is some flexibility in Delaware law, and I'm not a Delaware lawyer, so if you're a Delaware lawyer, weigh in the comments. I believe there's some flexibility there because sometimes maybe the lower offer comes with different benefits, but in this case, it seems pretty cut and dry that Harvey's offer is better. I will say, the sale doesn't happen right then and there. Typically for big companies like this, the board of directors, who we just saw in that room, they will vote and they'll say, yeah, we want to move forward with the sale. And typically you also have to go to the shareholders for a big transaction like this and get the shareholders' approval as well. And so we'll see what happens next. Maybe they're going to go to the shareholders and do that vote, digitally, or maybe they're going to do an in-person meeting. But usually you need a round of shareholder approval to go forward with something that big. All right, everybody, that's it for me on this Suits Red episode. I really hope you guys enjoyed this. If you disagree with me, by the the way. If you have things to add, more context to give, corrections, leave it all in the comments. I'm not perfect. I never claim to be perfect. All right, take it easy. I'll catch you later.